All right, so the big question today is Grant Cardone bankrupt? So today we're going to be going over the bankruptcy information as far as Grant Cardone and Cardone Capital. We're going to be covering Cardone Capital layoffs, and everything was revealed within this podcast right here. So this is Billie Jean is Marketing, his podcast. All right, and so Billie Jean ended up interviewing Grant Cardone, and you can go ahead and listen to this audio yourself. It is on Apple, and again, it's the Billie Jean is Marketing Offends the Internet, and there's a link right here to the podcast within my blog. Okay, so I got an email from Billie Jean promoting his podcast episode, and here's what the email looked like. And I'm just going to summarize this interview real quick and answer the questions for you that you're wondering real fast. So, Billie Jean asked, Grant, are you really broke? And Grant said, no. Technically, he said I'm bullshitting because Billie Jean asked, are you bankrupt or are you bullshitting? And so Grant Cardone said, no, I'm bullshitting. And here's the reason why. Okay, so here's why he's doing it. And we'll get into more as to why he does it later on and stuff. But right now, the trend in the world is coronavirus, Wuhan, lockdown, 5G, etc. Plus, everyone's attention is now on Donald Trump to see what he is going to do. So Grant says, how do we get attention? So this is what he says on the podcast. So Grant's saying, how do we get attention? We got to do something to bust through, man. Nobody can hear us. No matter how hard I work, nobody can hear us. Basically, Grant wants PR or publicity. Not so much publicity, but more so, it is publicity, and that's how he's getting his marketing out there, but it's more so marketing. So him and his team are trying to think of deals that they can do, and what they realize is that people are so focused on the chaos that in order to get people's attention, he has to make an even greater chaos, which is genius in my opinion, as long as no one gets hurt. And we'll find out if anyone gets hurt later on. Okay, so now Billy asks Grant the moral question. Okay, if you're not doing it, okay, so if you're not going bankrupt, was it right to worry your investors with a bankruptcy message while they see the world ending, aka coronavirus lockdowns, because your company, Cardone Capital, takes average Joe investor money? So to someone that's 59 years old, who just gave you their last $20,000 or the $20,000 they've been saving for 30 years, was it right to do this marketing publicity stunt? Was it right to worry the investors, the Cardone Capital investors? And Grant's answer is, I can go bankrupt, and that would not affect the investors. They're backed by real estate, and he says, I am separate from the ownership of the real estate that backs the investors. Okay? So that's what he said on the podcast. I typed it out word for word, put it in quotes. So what this means is basically your investment is not inside Cardone Capital as a business, so you don't own stock or anything like that. Nor is your capital in Cardone Capital's real estate, so you're not actually owning an equity share of his real, not his, I thought, of his real estate. So the real estate he owns is his real estate, and the real estate that you are investing in is managed separately. Okay, so that's what that means. I don't know the intricacies of it or how complex it's set up, but that's basically what it means. So when Cardone goes down, you are not affected. Um, Now, real estate is the most protected asset industry, so there's a lot of debt floating around. There's a lot of things like that. Um, so being backed by real estate makes a lot of sense. Everyone needs a place to live, no matter what. So it makes a lot of sense. Now, Billy asked, your name is hotter than ever, but is that a good thing? Which is a very good question, because sometimes there can be bad publicity, good publicity. But I remember hearing a quote saying that all press is good press. All news is, not all news is good news, but all press is good press because it just brings attention to you. Um, so Grant goes on to say, I don't know. Okay, he also mentions, I don't recommend people do this as a strategy. because Grant was trying to switch people's attention to him and control the narrative. Okay, he keeps talking about controlling the narrative, which in my opinion means he wants to create his own press and be able to control his business even when people are in panic mode. At least that's my interpretation. So he wants to be able to break free from, maybe not break free, but at least take advantage of what's going on. You know, if everyone's so worried about Corona, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get into the 10x masks. This is falls a little more into the 10x masks and things like that. So, what do you think? Comment below your thoughts and share this post on Facebook if you enjoy it. So comment below, let me know what you think. Let's talk about it. So at 8:40, Billy flips the script and puts Grant in his investor's shoes, pushing on and asking, if you were an investor, would your stunt be funny? And this is kind of a funny answer by Grant, which is a true answer, but I call it a brush-off answer. Before I give somebody, and this is what he says, forgot to put the first quote. But before I give somebody money, I would know them so well that I would know exactly what they did. And he goes on to explain that the people who know him understand that he markets one way but invests his money a different way. So now I feel like this is kind of a cop-out move because new customers don't know what your business is. You know, like they don't know what you're about. Now, granted, he is in real estate. You know, it is a bigger industry business, higher risk, higher reward. So I get what he's saying, but kind of seems like a little bit of a cop-out answer, in my opinion. So I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Okay. Does Grant Cardone feel remorse? Did he mess up even a little bit? Okay. This is another question Billy asks. Grant says, I don't think so. Not even a little bit. I've been paying investors for years. So basically, Grant, he doesn't feel remorse for what he did because it's a marketing stunt to try to get over the coronavirus and break through all this bad news, and even redirect a lot of the chaos to his website, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, I mean, he basically doesn't think he made a bad decision. And I don't think he made a bad decision either, because as long as he's paying his investors, he can make any decision that scares new customers away. I mean, that doesn't really matter because, you know, if this big old controversy is preventing, you know, average Joe people from investing, which is what Cardone Capital is based off of, to allow average people to invest. But still, like, scaring some new customers away isn't that big of a deal because he's getting all this press, all this attention, and he's going to be getting multi-million-dollar deals from all this attention because now there's some big sharks looking at him. Now they're going to be looking into what is Cardone Capital? How is my investment backed up? How does he pay people? How does it work if he can't pay people? So now big sharks, big whales are going to be looking more at Cardone and what he's doing. So I agree with him. He didn't make a bad decision. The only difference between good and bad is your own perception. You know, as long as no one's getting hurt and as long as he's paying investors, I think it's fine. I don't really give a crap. Remorse, he should not feel remorse. Never feel remorse for what you do. Live your life and die, and that's it. But did he mess up even a little bit? Maybe he did mess up a little bit. Maybe he could have, like, said a little bit more, as far as, like, how he was taking care of his customers a little better. But I don't know. Okay, so Grant Cardone, layoffs and why. So why did he lay off people? So before the coronavirus was announced, Grant Cardone actually got some information. So let's go over this. So before the coronavirus was announced in the United States, Grant got a call from a connection of his saying that the country is about to go remote. And after that, the USA will be shut down. So Grant had some notice, which plays a huge role in his decision, of course, right? So he got some early information. He knew it was going to happen a little bit before it happened. So Right when Grant gets back to the office, he has a meeting with his executive staff and asks, who did we hire in January and February? So the reason Grant laid off 42 people is because when the lock so with the lockdown, it is nearly impossible to train, manage, educate, and instill culture remotely, which makes sense because live is different learning, a different learning environment. But I was a part of a network marketing company way long ago called Empower Network, and they built culture like you wouldn't effing believe. So you can build culture remotely. It is a skill set. It is something that you have to put in a lot of work to do, but it is something you can do. So I feel like Grant Cardone's just kind of shying away from the challenge a little bit, but at the same time, um, we'll get into some a little more realistic information down here as well. But yeah, like that he can't really he can't control the training and education and culture remotely. What does remotely mean? That means via like when you stay at your house and you do like webinars and stuff to train. So he's not wanting to do that. He wants to have you in his office, training, going with his team, doing things like that. So it is different if you've ever been to like a live event, like a Russell Brunson or a network marketing event or whatever. Like it is a lot better. Okay, I'm not going to disagree with him. However, there is ways to build culture online, although I understand it's not as good as in person, so I totally agree with him. Um, I would definitely fire these people too. It's just not doable. So Grant was preparing his business for the economic crash, right? So Grant's goal, now, I'm sorry, Grant's goal is to be able to take advantage of the collapse because in previous crashes he didn't do so. So he during this podcast he keeps mentioning that um, he's been through like 4 crises, and he didn't take advantage of any of them, right? There was 2008, there was 9/11, there was something before that, and he said something before that, I don't remember. But like he's been through like 3 or 4 crises, and he hasn't been in the position, nor once he was in the position, he didn't take advantage of uh, what he can do right now. So right now he's trying to contract, save some money, save some people. He's trying to save the boat. But we'll get into that in a second. So if he doesn't fire people, okay, here's where the more realistic, stuff happens. This is as a business owner. So if he doesn't fire people, the business will die, and everyone hurts. Everyone gets laid off. Okay, you lose your job, you lose your job, and you lose your job. Okay, so Grant Cardone has to make some tough decisions. But if he fires a few people, leads the remaining people, he can survive long enough to come back for the people who were laid off, right? So he's trying to survive himself and keep his company afloat as best he can, so that when it does turn around, he can come back and hire people. Important notes, the 42 people that were laid off were new hires that were not assimilated into the culture yet. So they were not people that, were there for 2 years doing great, and all of a sudden just everything drops from the floor. It wasn't like that. It was like someone who just got hired last week, last 2 weeks, last month. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. And the people laid off are able to file for unemployment, and 40 of the 42 have a job with Grant as soon as the lockdown is over. And another important note is the 42 people got their last 2 weeks paid. Okay? So they never missed any. So Grant Cardone has a huge record of paying people. Okay? If you're working with Grant Cardone in any kind of way, he's gonna freaking pay you. Okay? So really important information. Like a lot of people are like, Grant's a monster. Grant, how could Grant fire 42 people? And how he's got enough money to carry these people, and He should just sell a few of his properties to help people get through the crisis. Like, really? Are you are you gonna sell your house to help other people get through the crisis? Like, the reason Grant has all those properties is to employ people, to have the money to hire them and to feed them, to make sure they can work. So there's a lot of really, really important details to understand. Now, is he, is this all true? Is he all correct about this? Is he lying? I don't know. I don't know. But this is just the interview. This is just what he said. So what did the 42 people say? Grant, Billie Jean did ask this, and Grant, he said no one liked it, and they felt blindsided. That's really all he said about it, which is easy to understand. But if they're kept hired, Grant will not survive the crash, and will have to let everyone go. So it's hard for everyone, right? So no one liked it. They felt blindsided. Probably, Oh, another thing is, the 40. Okay, so 40. Oh, yeah, yeah, I already mentioned that. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I want to cover all the bases. Make sure you don't think Grant Cardone's an evil person. Okay, so Billy asked Grant, do you care? Okay, so does Grant Cardone care? And Grant explains, yes, of course. But the timing was bad. The haters are just judging from a distance without trying to make any moves for themselves. And this makes complete sense, okay? Um, in business, you have to be ruthless. In business, um, you can either care exponentially or you can care not at all. And so it's apparent if you do care or not, depending on one, whether you pay people, two, whether you're being open and transparent about what's going on, to your people. So like for example, the investors that are invested into Grant Cardone, or I'm sorry, not Grant Cardone, but Cardone Capital, Grant gave them a call and let all of them know, what's going on. Okay, so every investor got a private call. He also called all of his tenants, and we'll get into that in a second too. Actually, it's right here. So like, he's making deals with his renters. He's making deals with people. So for example, if someone owes a whole year on their property rent, they can pay 6 months now, and then they keep their place and have the rent added to their back end. So he explains that he's making deals with people. He's not kicking people out just because they're not paying. He's trying to make deals with them. Some people got, $1,000 laying around. So if Grant can collect that $1,000 by giving them a discount on their rent or whatever, it's, he's trying to save his people, which are his, his business tenants. That's what gives him money. But while making money in whatever way he can. So he's coming up with a negotiation for him and his people. Okay, he's trying to negotiate. He's trying to get as much money as he can, but also make it a fair deal for people. So he's he's hustling. He's sharking it a little bit. He's getting out there. He's doing those deals. He's making it happen. But he's not doing anything unethical. Not that I see so far. So his Grant Cardone had coronavirus. He says he had coronavirus in January, but I don't even know if it exists, so I don't even know. He could have had anything but he says it was like a death blow. So he said it was like anything, unlike anything he's ever experienced. He said it kind of felt synthetic. Um, so yeah, that's that. So Grant Cardone 10x mask explained. So you may have seen these 10x medical masks being sold by Grant. This is an attempt to create a loss leader, which is a product you break even on or lose some money selling in order to sell additional products and services. In this case, he was driving traffic to his website for leads and potential investors. So it's something that all top brands do, and it's very powerful in marketing. So it makes sense, and people are buying masks because it's a hot product, okay? And so when there's a hot product in e-commerce, you want to tap into that. So he's tapping into a hot product that is selling well, and he's capturing the trend. So that's all he's doing, right? That's what the greatest marketers do. So it just makes a lot of sense. Make your own opinion. Let me know in the comments below. Did Grant Cardone sue Kevin David? No, someone else sued Kevin Doe. How much is Grant Cardone spending on ads now? So during this pandemic, he's spending over $1 million per month. Many products also had to be rebranded to suit the current times and crisis. Okay, so the big boys are still spending a lot of money on ads, and they're still kicking, right? So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to punch through this whole crisis. Okay, so what's next for Grant Cardone? Grant is planning on expanding his multifamily homes and hire more people over the course of the lockdown. So over the course of 2 to 3 years. Now in the interview, he said that in 1 year he wants to get from 8,000 units to 28,000 units. Okay, but he's really looking to 10x over the course of 2 to 3 years as this virus supposedly does whatever it does. Grant Cardone Capital bankruptcy conclusion. So what do I think about this? It's a marketing ploy to get attention during chaotic times. Cardone Capital investors are getting paid and are backed by real estate. But most importantly, listen to the podcast yourself here. I'll put a link right here. You will get so much more from the actual recording. Plus, it's hilarious. Okay, Billie Jean's hilarious. However, time will tell whether Grant Cardone is making the right moves. Do you agree with how Grant is gaining publicity? Comment below. Let me know. Let's have a conversation. So that's the overview of this podcast. And make sure to go listen to it for yourself. It's 56 minutes. Boom. Okay, so thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more videos and entrepreneur news, entrepreneur tips. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.